everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Johnny Vlogs. Before we get started, this episode is brought to you by new Patreon supporter Selena Moffat, who has been a Twitter follower for a long time. We've chatted a bit. Thank you so much for the support, Selena. And Farah Camille. Thank you both for supporting what I do. I truly, truly appreciate it, as well as all of you other Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. So today's topic, I wanted to hit something a little bit lighter, and then of course, you know how my mind works. It kind of took me to the place where most of these topics go. But let me just start by saying one of the things that I miss the least about being in the Los Angeles area is the traffic. And it's weird because I know it sounds kind of cliche and people are like, oh yeah, you know, everyone hates the traffic in LA. Well, it's gotten worse over the years, particularly over the time that I was living there. And it was certainly a consideration when I considered moving across the country to Minnesota. I just wanted to be at a place where, you know, if you wanted to get to a decent restaurant, you didn't have to sit an hour in traffic. And it's weird because there's a trade-off in terms of, yeah, you're in Los Angeles and there's all these kind of unique cultural things that are going on out there, particularly around the entertainment industry. I can say that I don't miss those things all that much since I've moved away. But one thing that does strike me very often is how easy it is to drive around here, how easy it is to find parking, even at supposedly popular places out here. It is just a world of difference. And there was a phase I went through probably a little over 10 years ago where I started really looking into self-help books and tried to become more mindful and more aware of myself and my emotional state. And one of the things that I quickly noticed was how driving would impact that. And I eventually came to the conclusion that it was something I was allowing myself to do. I was actually participating in it. You know, I would get into traffic and for some reason it would upset me. And when you really boil it down and think about it, it's like, well, the traffic was pretty regular, you know? I mean, it was, sure, there were certain times where there might be an accident or something like that, and it would be a little bit worse than usual. But considering how many people are traveling out there, it was fairly regular, fairly easy to predict. I wasn't late to places a whole lot, but I still noticed that there was this weird emotional ride that I was going through, driving aggressively, you know, making sure that there's no space between me and the next car so no one can try to come into the lane, you know, people blocking each other like from exits. I mean, I saw some really aggressive things. I knew some really bad drivers when I lived out there. People that would literally scream at other cars, roll down the windows, honk, yell. It was like an emotional roller coaster for some people, just getting in your car and trying to go from A to B. But what I didn't consider is the impact that might have on crime. And I actually found an article that was just reposted at Scientific American. It was originally posted at a place called The Conversation. And it's essentially an essay that kind of touches on this. The title of it is "Traffic Gridlock is Linked to More Crime. The Psychological Cost of These Jams May Be Underestimated." And it notes in here that research has linked traffic to negative mental health outcomes, including stress and aggression. And combining traffic and police data, we found that unexpected high traffic led to an increase in domestic violence. And when you think about that situation, I guess it kind of makes some reasonable sense, particularly because of where everyone's going. At some point, you're sitting in traffic going to work. Sure, you get to work. Maybe you'll let it out on some people that work for you, or if you don't have people that work for you, maybe you'll, you know, give some of your bad attitude to the guy at the coffee counter that you pay for your coffee or your bagels or whatever. It's just, I noticed these trends even within myself. There was always this leveling up. It's like, oh, you get all this aggression and you have to let it out somewhere. But then when you consider the trip home, kind of the same situation. You're sitting in that same traffic, and you eventually get home, and who are you there with? It's going to be you and your family. And it is very interesting to me to think about that dynamic and the plausibility of that. Now, this article, they're trying to prove it statistically. I have some questions about how the data has been mashed together, but even outside of that, I find it pretty difficult to refute their conclusion. I think there certainly is a correlation there. I do believe that, it's one of those things. You only get so much time to actually live this life, and you want to try to do it at least for me, it was about trying to be the best me that I could be. Forget whatever other people's standards are, but if a part of every day is 2 hours of you being hugely frustrated, it could even have physical effects, blood pressure problems and things like that. But really just letting yourself go and turn into this monster of yelling and screaming at cars and honking your horn and doing all that kind of stuff. Is that really the life that you want to have? Is it really worth being in the cool part of California, being close to, theme parks, or being part of the entertainment industry, things like that? You really have to look at how, even if it's a dream, even if, wanting to be working for a movie studio is a big dream of yours, you really have to realize, what are you trading off for that dream, and is it truly worth it? And it took some years, but I am quite happy that, honestly, that this happened, that YouTube gave me a platform where one of the first things I recognized was, hey, there's a lot of YouTubers that have nothing to do with Los Angeles. There are people all over the world that are doing this, and the audience can get to them very easily because of this amazing platform. So it was almost as soon as I recognized that, as soon as I found kind of what I wanted to do with the platform and people were responding to that, I just felt this weird kind of resolve within myself that was like, okay, we don't have to be here. Yeah, maybe. And, I'm a first generation American. My father is from Ireland. My mom's from Germany. Moving to California, it's weird when I look back on it now. I wonder where they heard their stories of what California was, what Southern California was. It's like this kind of fantasy dream that is spread all around the world. And even if you watch television and stuff, you'll see people that are regularly selling California as a lifestyle. And it certainly can be, but those movies and TV shows, even if they make fun of the traffic, they hardly show the realities of it. I think the movie that kind of got the closest to it, it's funny, this just popped in my mind, is that Michael Douglas movie from the 90s, I believe, called Falling Down. And if I recall right, the start of that movie is him literally in a traffic jam when he just snaps. And I think that worked so well in that movie, particularly for people that lived and experienced traffic like that, because we all felt like that. We all had moments where we snapped. If you are going to be there, if you are going to be a part of it, I think you just have to find your way of coping with it a bit better. I eventually got to the point where I was no longer upset at traffic. I didn't go on that emotional roller coaster anymore. It took a lot of time. I had to become very aware of when I was getting upset and what I was getting upset about. Back at that time, we didn't quite have Waze or Google Maps or things like that. So that was kind of a big turn that I noticed too. As soon as I had a application that was able to tell me what time I was going to arrive somewhere, for some reason that just took a lot of the stress away from the whole driving experience, because then you have an expectation that is very realistic. Before that, it kind of felt like you were shooting in the dark, and you would just have to leave super early to make sure you were at some place on time. But even with that, I found a way to work through it, and eventually I just became a much more calm driver. I left that space between me and the next car, and if a car came in, big deal. What's that really adding to my travel? Like a millisecond or pieces of a second? Even if it's 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, whatever, add an extra minute. I'm just going to sit here and chill out and try to enjoy myself as I'm moving through this nightmare of traffic. So for any of you that are in California out there, If you do struggle with that, I do think it's worth looking into it for yourself and seeing if there's things you can do to try to mellow that out for yourselves, just to be happier. I mean, that's really, who wants to live in Southern California if you can't be happy while you're being there? And of course, if you want to move somewhere else so you don't have to deal with any of that anymore, that's perfectly reasonable nowadays. There's a lot of people that can telecommute, not just YouTubers. So things are changing, and for some of us, they have changed way for the better. And you guys are a big part of that. So thank you so much for allowing me the flexibility to feel like I could do this and still be a part of something that I've wanted to be a part of my whole life, sharing my thoughts and feelings with other people out there. I hope you have an excellent day. Hopefully this gave you a nice start to your week. Maybe it'll give you a little bit of an easier drive. Maybe it'll just get you thinking about what you can do to make your drive easier. Who knows? But I really appreciate each and every one of you out there. I will see you back here tomorrow with a case cracked, and of course, all the usual shows that you get here on Lord and Arts. Take care, everyone. See you again real soon.